Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we are behind the wheel of my boat. We're gonna go ahead and teach you everything you need to know about side scan. We're gonna basically have you a master of side scan at the end of today's video. I spent hours and hours learning this thing last year, learning everything about fish finders, and it's been an amazing tool to help me catch more fish all summer long. So it's something that you guys should spend a lot of time learning as well. And today's video is gonna break you down through everything, how to use it, how it works, settings you need. We're going to show you how to actually graph around and look at places, basically everything you need to know about side scan. So we're going to go through everything. First thing we're going to do, settings first, because that's very important. We'll explain how side scan works, and then we'll actually show you on the water footage of graphing around with it, things we find out there, and how to use it. So let's get after it. Stay tuned. It's going to be a good one. All right, so we're behind the wheel of the boat now. We are idling. That's the biggest key with side scan. You have to be moving in a straightforward position. When you turn, it's going to give you inaccurate readings. If you're going too slow, it's going to give you inaccurate readings. As you can see on the screen right here, as soon as we started moving, there's that cutoff, and now I can actually see what's on the bottom. So that's what I'm looking at here, making sure that I can see everything. Now, as we're idling, now's when we're going to mess with settings. And what I usually do, I get moving in a slow motion away from every boat that I can see and play with my settings and get them dialed into what I want, and then I'll actually go and start idling the lake. So it'll depend on where you're actually at. I usually don't mess with my settings much unless I actually have to, depending on the lake. Sometimes messing with them can get you a better view, but if you come into menu here, there's obviously a bunch of options that you can go through. We're gonna start in the more options tab just to show you all the stuff that I really don't mess with much in here. Range lines, never mess with it. View, left, right, and I never stop sonar, so that's it. Then if you go into advanced here, I flip my left and right because my transducer on my boat is actually mounted backwards, so it's up underneath my hull. I can show you a little shot of that right here. Put that up underneath my hull backwards, so you have to flip left and right so it's actually showing you the right direction, but that just keeps it so you don't rip the transducer off your hull back there. Surface clarity, I keep that on low, and that's it. So then in here, you have three things that are very, very important: your range, your contrast, and your frequency. So your range obviously going to depend on how far you want to look. That also depends on how deep of water you're in. So I usually leave it between 80 and 100 feet. Up on the Great Lakes, I'm going to go 100 feet and try and see as far as I can, because I'm going to look for very specific boulders and stuff like that. In a lake like this where there's a little bit more dirty water, I can dial that surface clarity back a little bit, or the clarity of the screen back a little bit by bringing the range in tighter. My number one recommendation is to stay with a singular range and practice with that. Somewhere between 60 and 100 feet is my recommendation. I usually just run it on 80, 99% of the time, because if you start playing with your range, if you're using a 50-foot range all the time, and then you jump up to 110, you might look at something and go, wow, that thing's tiny, that rock doesn't mean anything, when that rock is just as big as a rock that you would mark on 50 if you actually saw it on your 50-foot range. So I leave it on 80 so that everything looks the same. You're always looking at the same type of structure down there. And then your frequency, that's going to depend on the type of water you're fishing and the type of image you want. The higher the kilohertz you have, the clearer that your image is going to be. But you're going to lose range. So if I go to 455 here, you're going to see this screen like blows out immediately. And it's much more detailed down there, and I get more range, but it's when you actually graph over something, it's not going to look super detailed like you would get in 800. Like if you're in 800, you'll be able to see very specific things. On a brush pile, you'll be able to see the actual branches a little bit better, stuff like that. In 455, you're going to get more range but less detail. So pick between those two, and then you can obviously dial back your contrast as such. So what I usually do, we'll run 455 for this and take a look at it like that. It's a little bit easier to see. Now, obviously I blew my image out here. You can run auto contrast or you can run it just regular. If you run auto, it'll constantly change to adjust to your screen a little bit and try and dial it in for you, and you can just bump it up or down a little bit. That's usually what I do, so I'm not constantly in my contrast messing around with it. And what I'll do is I'll blow this image out so you can see there's nothing there, and then I'll slowly bring it back down until I get the image that I want. shadow wise, and I actually want to bump it up probably like A+2 looks good on 455 here today. And then the last thing is your actual palette. So you can change your palette based on what your eyes see best. There's 11 options to choose from here. And obviously you'll have to change your settings again based on your palette. So the blue really blows it out. This blue right here, that shows rocks really, really good. This palette can show detail really well, but you gotta dial your contrast back a little bit. There's a whole bunch of colors. I usually run 10 or 9. Those are my two favorites. I like 9 a lot for when I'm looking for rocks and other offshore pieces of structure because it shows the shadow really well. So we'll actually run with 9 to try and show you that. But if there's one that your eyes see better than the other, go ahead and pick that one, and that's gonna be your best bet. So, and actually looking at it right here, there's this stump on the top left here. You can see that image is actually blown out just a little bit too much. So I'm gonna dial that back a little bit, and I'm actually gonna go A-2. That's where I really start to get that shadow to pop and show a little bit better. So obviously this is gonna take a little bit of playing around with while you're out there on the water, graphing around a little bit, playing around, trying to get that setting dialed in. Once you do, spend a lot of time behind the wheel and figure out what's what, and that'll help you catch a lot more fish out there. Now, for the actual side scan, what does it do? How does it work? When we're talking about side scan, what's gonna happen is your boat is in the very top middle where this line is right down the middle here. Then off to each side is your left and right, and you can see your range down at the bottom here, and that's gonna show you out how far something is from your boat. So if you have something out to the side, when that beam goes out and hits it, it's gonna create a shadow on the backside and bounce back, and that's gonna draw that image. So the shadow can actually indicate how big something is as well. So if you're graphing on the Great Lakes and you find a boulder and the shadow's only a foot long, that boulder's probably only about a foot tall. If you find a boulder on the Great Lakes and that shadow travels 5 feet, that could be a 5-foot tall boulder, and that's very significant. So a lot of times the shadows can tell you more than what the actual image itself is. Like on this right here, I'm actually graphing this ledge, and I'll see if I can show it here. It's kind of hard to get my screen to show. I'm graphing this ledge right here on my map, and you can see off to the left of my side scan, that ledge has that big drop. You can literally see the shadow off the top of the ledge. And then if I actually scroll over a little bit, you can see where that ledge hits the bottom again. So I can see that entire ledge and how big it is and how far out it goes just by controlling my shadows there. So now that I actually have what I need to see here, I have it all set up, now we can start looking at some stuff down here and see what we're looking for. So right now we're graphing, like I said, on this ledge here, and you can see all these big stumps and brush piles off to the left and right hand side of my boat. Those are all areas that you would mark. Like you could mark each one of these individually here, and you could catch fish off of every one of these stumps. You could work your way around, and this is where I mean the shadows too. So you can see every one of these stumps out here have shadows on it, and those shadows stretch out pretty far on some of them and not as far on others. Like this one right here, very small shadow, very small outline. This one, very large shadow, that's a much taller stump right there. So those are all good areas that you can graph and take a look at. It really just depends on what you're looking for in each body of water. Once you have your side scan dialed in, you have everything ready to go, spend a lot of time graphing behind the wheel, and when you find something that looks like it should have a fish on it, turn around, cast on it, and just keep repeating that process until it starts to make sense. You'll keep casting on a bunch of them, and eventually it'll click, that's what that should look like, and then I'll get a bite, and then you just keep running that pattern over and over again, and you'll keep finding some more fish. So we're gonna finish graphing this point right here. Like I talked about, we're gonna go over a couple places that you might wanna graph and places to find fish. So this is a prime example right here. Obviously, we have our ledge that we were talking about, and that ledge ends in a point off the very end. So right now I'm working my way out to the very end of this point where it drops off into deeper water, and all these stumps are sitting out on the very end of this thing. So that's what we're looking for. That's a prime example of places to look for. You'll look for a high percentage area on your map. That's what I like to do. I'll find something high percentage like this, and then I'll actually idle it with my side scan and see what I can find. So I'm graphing over this right now. Obviously I've graphed this numerous times, and I'm slowly working my way up. And you can see all these stumps still showing up on my side scan out here. And I've been maintaining the same speed the whole time. That gives me the clearest image. I don't try to make sudden turns. I try and just stay in a straight line or a gentle turn and follow myself around here and look at these objects. So you can see I'm finishing up my waypoints right here. Got a couple more large stumps in the water, and that's about it on this spot. But we're gonna go find some other cool stuff to show you. Maybe a shell bar and like an old house foundation. Those are some places that are very important places to fish. So we're gonna go find some of those right now and show you what they look like. All right, so we're gonna make our way up on this house foundation here and show you what it looks like. But with Navionics, the way I found this one, this is a roadbed right here, and then this little red square is indicating a house foundation right there. So that's some stuff that you can look for on your Navionics chip and help you find some places sooner. You can see as soon as we cross that roadbed, there's that roadbed right there. And I mean, it's plain as day. It literally looks like an old road, and you can see it clear as can be with that palette set up and all those settings. So we're gonna graph over this. We'll show you what this old house looks like down here. And there might be some other cool stuff down here too. So we'll take a little look through here and show you what it looks like. So that's another interesting one right there off to the left. Those are some old bluegill beds that you're seeing right there on that palette, and they're gonna be right next to this house foundation. I mean, this is gonna look really, really good on side scan here. Yeah, this is like the juice. So there is a ton of stuff down there to take a look at. Off to the right, there is a big shell bar. So that's what a shell bar or a rock pile would look like. That's just some old rubble. And then off to the left is actually that house foundation. I was just taking a screenshot right there. But you can see off to the right is that big rock pile, and then off to the left is that house foundation. We're actually gonna take another lap around, and you can literally see the pipes and everything on this house. So we're gonna roll right back around here and show you what this looks like in a little bit more detail. But it's crazy how much you can get with this side scan. So I made one pass through there, and you can see the roadbed off to the one side, which actually that roadbed is that old submerged culvert right here. Right here, that yellow box is a submerged culvert pipe right there. That is actually what that pile of rubble was right there. It's literally the old bridge that went over the roadbed there where the creek channel would cross through. So you literally could see the old riprap that's down there. Super cool to look at, but it's very detailed. You can see everything you need to see down there, and it helps you find a lot of fish. You just got to spend enough time behind the wheel doing this to actually find what you need to find. So let's take another pass through here and really show you what that house foundation looks like. It should be coming up at any second here. I mean, this would be like a prime area to fish. Obviously everyone's fished this today, including that tournament that was out here, but it's literally an old roadbed or an old house foundation and has bluegill beds all around it. So there is the house foundation, plain as day right there. I mean, that thing, you can see the old structure, you can see the foundation, you can see the pipes. It is crazy looking down there, everything that you can see. Like, I can zoom in on these too, so you can zoom in and actually take a look at what's down there with the live imaging or the HDS Lives. So you can see the shadow on the back side here. You can see the pipes out front and the foundation right here. You can scroll over. This is a little part of the house foundation over here. There's those old bluegill beds right there. That's all I'm looking for. You're looking for high percentage areas on your graph. You can go on Navionics and do this. You can see what you can find on Navionics prior to coming to the lake. And then when you put your boat in the water, you just go to those high percentage areas, throw your side scan on. You can see 160 feet at a time, and you just idle around. You literally, if you want, steal my settings right off this video. If you have an HDS, you can just do those exact same settings that I have. You'll get the same image that I'm showing you on this screen right here. And then other than that, it just takes practice, and time behind the wheel. So you got to spend a lot of time doing it and really put the time in to see what you need to see out here and practice. So you can see there's that old house foundation right there. There's one of them. There might be another one out here at the end. But it's just really cool getting to see all this stuff out here. And honestly, a lot of fish live on this stuff out here, especially in the summertime. So if you want to catch more fish in the summertime, this is something that you really want to learn how to do. And my best advice, like I said, graph around until you see something that you're like, there's got to be a fish on that. So like right there, there's got to be a fish on that. Actually, what's really coming up right here, there's got to be a fish on that. So this old house foundation right here, 100%, if I graphed over that, I would drop a waypoint right in the middle there, and then I would turn around and fish that and practice lining up on spots, learning how to cast from your front fish finder, all that kind of stuff, and actually catching fish off these. If you want to learn more about how to catch these fish once you actually find these spots, go ahead and check this video out right here. I did an entire offshore masterclass. I actually showed you more about side scanning and then how to take those waypoints up to your front graph, line up on them, what baits to throw, cast at those spots, and how to catch fish off those areas. So that's an entire video. We'll have you catching more fish in no time in combination with this one today. So check that one out. Hit the subscribe button down below if you enjoyed today's video so you don't miss any more of my fishing videos coming up. Hit that like button, and thanks for watching.